I was sending you up this Serger to give it a shot, and I just want you to know it was the very first one I ever bought back in 1988, and I made a lot of clothes for Brandon and his sister on this. It's been in storage for quite a while. I pulled it out and gave it a try, and it looks like you can pull it right out and start sewing with it, but I can see that it's not 100% right. You'll see the book because it comes with it, how it's supposed to be set up. And the first thing I want to tell you about a serger is it's a lot different than a sewing machine to sew with. It's a little tricky to thread, and it has to be done just exactly right. On the inside of the door, you can see the illustration of how it's to be threaded for each one, and it is threaded. I'll leave it that way for you. When you get it, this is going to be down. You're just going to pull that up, and then you'll feel those pop in the right place. These threads are old, and I think the thread is probably still fine, but the plastic is breaking down on it. It's been out in the garage for quite a while. Both doors have to be closed when you sew, but there's some accessories inside. This is a needle threader, and it helps you pull it through. One of these lower ones is kind of tricky. This uses a little bit different needle than your sewing machine, and the type of needle is right here on this. So there's 3 needles in there, but don't throw this away because it'll tell you what type of needle you need to buy when you need replacement needles. Okay? They don't need changing very often. I've got a couple of, where'd they go? Oh, there's a couple of screwdrivers in there for removing things and all, and they'll be right inside there as well. Also, there's some spool caps that if you're using small threads, if you wanted to do an overlock or a rolled hem, like a purple on a purple, you can change these to that. So here's the rolled hem attachment that you can switch out. The instructions are there, and they are also inside the manual. This is going to come in very handy. Whoops. It tells you how to thread it, and it tells you what it should look like and how it can be used. This is unlike a lot of sergers these days where you can swing the cutting blade out of the way. This one cannot be moved. It is always an edge stitch that you do, always an overlock or a rolled hem. Tells you how to clean it. They do get very dusty and linty, and you just clean them out with a little brush or a little vacuum. The tensions are in here, and they're pretty much set. You can mess with them a little bit, but they're pretty much set at what they need to be for normal usage. I've also got a couple extra feet that I've bought through time, and I've tried them, but they weren't always very successful. There's a piping foot if you want to stitch piping on. The directions are in there, I believe. I've also got a blind hem. Some people like to do blind hems on a serger. I was never fond of that because of the fact that if you get too close, you cut it. So there's 2 different sizes of blind hem in here, and there's an extra upper blade. That's the original extra upper blade. I've never had to change it, and it still cuts fine. I have had it put away for a while, but I used it practically nonstop when these kids were grown up to make clothes for them. So there it is if you need it. I think what you need to do is find somebody who works on sergers. This is a fairly simple one, a white Superlock, and you might want to take it in and have them service it and perhaps make sure the timing is right and all, and then it might actually stitch the way it's supposed to. But right now the upper looper is not looping into the second one. It should be going over both of them so that this side looks like this side. You can see though that it actually is still a stitch, and it's a usable stitch that you could put on clothing and sew with. So.
And changing the when you change colors of threads, you tie it.
Very important. You don't have to unthread the whole machine. When you want to change it, you cut these threads right here, and then you bring your new thread up and just tie a little slip knot in them. The needles are pretty easy. You don't even really need to do it on these. It's just the 2 lower, the loopers, that you really need to do that on. And then you never have to fight with it. But if you really want to know what you're doing sometime, unthread it and go ahead and rethread it, because it's very precise. Each one of those threads has to lay just where the picture shows it to lay. Anyway, it's a great machine. It still sounds good even though it's super yellowed after all this time. It's probably been in storage, I'm going to guess, 8 or 9 years. And so I haven't used it, but we just pulled it out and it sounds good. I'll just do a little stitch here for you. And with a serger, it's not like a sewing machine. You can stitch without anything under the needle. When you get to the end of your stitch, you just keep stitching it out and then cut it off. Or you can cut it a little longer and weave it back in through there. But it's very different from a sewing machine in that way. So I'll leave this under it. And good luck and God bless.